So yeah, the basic idea is to chat.
All right, chatting.
A chat.
All right, good.
Go where you like. Feel free.
Yeah.
Well, that's been like a recurring theme though this season with you. Is I was at your American Masters premiere the other night, and I saw a cover of a magazine that looked like you must have designed the cover of the magazine.
Why do you say that?
Because it was just kind of you and clarity and simple, and it was clean. And it didn't look like. So you're really kind of reaching out past just acting more and more. No?
Well, I don't know. Oh, yeah, that might be true. Yeah, I have, I'm a lot of interest, photography and drawing and ceramics.
Are people showing interest in your interests more?
A bit more, yes. And music, for instance. Crazy Heart really ignited my music for me. I'm currently working on an album right now with my buddy T-Bone Burnett. And I think that directly came out of Crazy Heart. The success of that. No.
T-Bone's kind of a good place to be hanging out.
He's something else. He's a master.
And you're toured, actually, a little bit.
We did he had a tour last year called the Speaking Clock Tour. Mm-hmm. And it was just wonderful getting to play with Elvis Costello and Leon Russell and Elton John and a whole slew of great artists.
But you're not going to retire from acting and become a
I don't think
rock and roll
so.
artist.
You never know, but I don't think so.
Anything could happen.
Always keep the hand in the acting thing, I think.
Does it feel like another act of your life? I mean, with all the acclaim that came last year and continues this year, is that?
Never thought of it in those terms, but maybe so, yeah. I know turning 60 was a big kind of chapter heading for me.
And you lost your mom around that time also?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that last year.
Uh-huh.
It's definitely a big moment.
Yeah.
So was the call to do True Grit just falling off a log for you? Is that an easy choice to make?
Not really. Most choices are difficult for me. That was really no exception. I was curious why the brothers wanted to make True Grit. It seemed like an odd choice. But come to think of it, it's not that odd. They're always surprising you with something, interesting. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, we're not making a remake of this film. We're looking at the original material, a novel written by Charles Portis. Mm-hmm. And have you read that? And I hadn't. And so once I read it, I saw what they were up to. It's got on board quick.
So you had seen the movie, of course.
Yeah, sure.
Because everybody else says they hadn't seen the movie and shouldn't have seen the movie and couldn't see the movie.
Yeah. Oh, I saw it years ago, and then saw it a little more recently. But when they said that they were, really more interested in the book, mm-hmm. that was music to my ears because I didn't really want to have to model myself after John Wayne or anything like that. I wanted to just, do it as a fresh assignment.
So do you have to go against the John Wayne thing?
No, I just didn't refer to it. I just didn't refer to it at all. I went with the book.
So how did you go after Rooster? How did you try to find him?
Well, you start with the material, and it's always wonderful when you do have a book that the script is based on, because in a book you can get get a lot more depth in your character and the story and so mm-hmm. forth. So it was wonderful to have this great book by Charles Portis, and he was so descriptive and also such wonderful dialogue. Mm-hmm. What the characters say about each other. And that tells you a lot. That's the starting place. Mm. And then, I look at aspects of myself that kind of link up with the character. I love to ride, mm-hmm. and Rooster did a lot of riding, I'm sure, in his time, if he was an actual person. I love to look. You mentioned photography, and I'm a photographer, and I love finding photographs that inspire me for different roles. And Mary Zofries, the costume designer mm-hmm. for Crazy Heart, she brought all these wonderful books that showed guys from those times, and not only for their costumes, mm-hmm. but also just for the expressions on their faces and help you get back in those times.
Mm-hmm. He's one thing you're definitely not, is a loner.
What's that?
He's kind of a loner, though.
Yeah,
not your character.
Yeah. Well, he's got so many. He's an interesting character. You think he's kind of a loner, but then he starts to tell you about his back life, and he owned a restaurant, a cafe. Yeah, quite an interesting life.
Did the guys talk to you about subtext at all in terms of the script or the character?
We try to stay away from that stuff. Not too much of that is spoken about.
So do you get surprised when you see it all put together and see layers?
Well, I'm surprised at the stuff that I wasn't in. I love that opening shot, for instance. It really draws the audience in a beautiful way, I think. But those guys, they know how to make movies, man. They make it look so easy,
So is it easy with them?
Well, yeah. From my point of view, yeah, it is pretty easy. Yeah, it's great. They have they've developed a great family of artists that they work with over and over again. Roger Deakins, the guy who shot Crazy Heart, I think they've made 12 movies with him. Mary Zophres, I mentioned her. She was the costume designer, and Big Lebowski as well. And so the atmosphere on the set's very relaxed. Everybody kind of, knows where everyone's coming from, and will make a good movie.
So everybody's complained so far about not having quite enough time.
Yeah.
And being out in the planes and being so uncomfortable on this one.
Well, that, unfortunately, that middle, that movie that gets, it's around $30-50 million movie. That's an awkward price for a film. We fell somewhere in there, and so you do feel a little rushed. Wish you had some more time and everything. But that's that's not too unusual. Making movies, you always want a little bit more than you get.
So do you think even when you work on a big movie, it's still you still feel like you could use a little bit, another take or another moment or another beat?
Yeah, making movies is so interesting. Each one is so unique. Sometimes you'll make one of these big tent pole, hundreds of millions of dollar, budget, and it'll feel like you're making a student film. There's no preparation. There's no. No sense of we got to come on. We got to do this. It's a funny thing. You work with what you're given. Really, that seems to be the best one. Don't spend too much time bitching about it. You need all your energy to do the work.
Well, the fact that you focused on one camera for so much of your photography career indicates a flexibility. I mean, you have to adjust, I guess, as the photographer to the circumstance. How
do you mean?
Well, it's not like some cameramen have 13 cameras and some different lens for everything and everything.
Yeah.
And you've made a choice to photograph in a certain way.
Yeah. With that one camera, my wide lux. Yeah, kind of fell in love with that.
Is that the challenge? Is that the part that's fun about doing it?
I don't know if it's a challenge or laziness, to not pick up another box and try taking pictures with that, One of these days I'll, get into the digital world. But I enjoy that wide lux. It's a quite unique camera, and I know how to use it, and I just, that seems to be my axe.
Maybe they'll make you a digital wide lux.
I don't think that's going to happen. It might. Who knows? You never know in this day and age.
We were talking to Roger, and he was saying that this may be the last Coen Brothers film on film.
Isn't that something? Wow.
And that he actually kind of prefers some of the digital stuff because it gives him more flexibility.
Absolutely. That's interesting. Yeah. Coming from him, he's probably right.
No higher authority, I think, in the business.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So what does you talked about it actually when we were in the American Masters thing, that it takes a lot to get you out of bed to go to work, to get you out.
Yeah.
What are the things that draw you? Are there shining lights that make you go, okay, I think maybe I'll do this? Or
well, generally it's the kind of movie that I want to see, which is the type of movie that the Coen Brothers excel in. Those kind of movies where the filmmakers are always a little ahead of you. You think you've got to figure it out, and then something surprising happens. I enjoy that. I try to mix up the characters just to keep it kind of fresh for myself, and for the audience as well, you know, to keep them a little bit on their toes, not sure what kind of character I'll be playing.
Did you ever have the thing where you felt you had to work because you may not have another job next month, or?
Gosh, you know, I've been so fortunate that way that I can say, no, I've never, you know, I haven't. I've never, you know, I've been so fortunate in the opportunities that have been, you know, put in front of me, that I've never had to, you know, just work to, you know, to make the buck.
Well, it sounds like making the choice to not just have movies in your life.
Yeah.
Is a big part of that too.
Yeah.
Even though you grew up in a movie family, not very far from here.
That's right.
You kind of chose to do something other than just be in Hollywood.
Yeah, I resisted the acting thing for quite a while and developed some other talents and enjoy those. And then I find I'm able to incorporate those into the acting. So it's kind of worked out well that way.
So did you enjoy having 2 films coming out at the same time this Christmas?
Not particularly.
I mean, you must have done a lot of press for a lot of days.
Oh man, it was a little tough, you know. But I can't figure out if it was better to put it all in, you know, in one big, you know, pile that was hard work, or to kind of spread it out. Maybe it was better the way it happened this time, the way it did.
Maybe Digital Domain could have computerized you. And,
there you go. Now we're talking.
Sent your young self and press tour.
Now we're talking.
So was it fun to do the American Masters thing?
Yeah, it was. It was interesting. I had done had other, you know, biographies done of my life and stuff, but with this one, they really wanted a lot of input from my side, and I resisted that for a while. But then I thought, wait a minute, there's some things that I'd like to explore, and I might be able to work with my dear friend Alan Kozlowski, who shot a lot of it. And it was disappointing on other fronts. You know, a lot of the things I was hoping that they would get in there, they weren't able to put in. I knew you couldn't put everything. We shot a lot of film. I wish they would have had a little bit or something about the No Kid Hungry campaign, which I'm the national spokesperson for. It's all about ending childhood hunger here in America.
And how long have you been doing that?
Well, I've been working on the hunger issue for over 30 years now, but this is a new campaign that we're starting. My organization is the End Hunger Network, and we're in partnership with an organization called Share Our Strength that has come up with this idea that I think it's really a wonderful one. You know, according to the Department of Agriculture, who's been tracking food insecurity, households that have food insecurity since I think '95. They've just put out a report that 17 million of our children live in food insecure homes, households where they're not going to get enough nutrition.
17 million in the U.S.
17 million. That's 1 in 4 of our kids.
Stunning.
It's just, you know, it's hard to get your head around that number. And that's like the bad news. The good news is that there are programs in place like food stamps is now called the SNAP program, the WIC program, Women, Infants, and Children Feeding Programs, and these great school feeding programs that are in place, and we know that they work. And there is over $1 billion that's allocated to the states now. It's voted on with bipartisan votes, and you know, both parties support this. There's over $1 billion that's not being used properly, and so this No Kid Hungry campaign, we're going from state to state, working with mayors and governors to find out where that, you know, where the problem lies. You know, it's a lot of different reasons. Sometimes it's transportation. Often it's just, you know, shame and embarrassment, you know, being the poor kid, you know, who's kind of isolated out, you know, stands out. He's the, you know, kid whose parents can't afford it and everything.
So you're trying to loosen up money that's already there.
So we're trying
Not even
to,
asking for
yeah,
money.
and that's great news, especially in these, you know, times where money is so tight. But we're California is one of the states that we're going to be working with this year. So I'll be talking to Jerry Brown. I'm looking forward to that.
So do you think Hollywood does enough for the culture aside from making movies and television and all that? I mean, are we? Is it a conscious society? Do you think?
Oh, you know, everything's kind of relative. It could be more, could be less. I think Hollywood generally does more than most industries, I think. But I'm, this is my industry, but I'm very proud that our organization has the Motion Picture and Television Fund, taking care of our folks that way. I think I think our industry does well that way. Of course, you can always do better. Always find new ways to get the job done.
Are you very political as a role? Are you
not political? I'm more issue oriented. There's certain things that I'm environmental stuff, and my father was very much into the environment, the oceans, and I participate in Oceana as an organization that I'm active in.
So do you feel like the industry is doing well these days? I mean, you've been in so many great films. You've been in the big films, but you've also done a lot of indies and films that came up the hard way. A movie like Door on the Floor just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Which is a great film that got a little bit lost in distribution because, it didn't get as much attention as it deserved. Do you feel everybody's talking about dramas are dead, or about this kind of middle film maybe in trouble?
Yeah.
Do you sense that, or do you just...
Well, it keeps changing, and for a film to be a success creatively and also financially, it takes so many things to come together in just the right way. You mentioned Door on the Floor, and I can't remember, what the distribution deal with that was. Yeah. But that's such an important part of the success of a film, as far as getting to the people to see it. Yeah. With Crazy Heart, we had that, Fox Searchlight. They seem to be the guys who really know how to release a smaller independent film. Yeah. We're very fortunate on that. But all in all, it's kind of up for grabs. One of the reasons I did Tron, the Tron Legacy, was to experience what making movies without cameras would be like, and that's largely what that film was all about.
So was that interesting for you? Or
yeah, interesting and challenging in different ways, and so gives you that's like a tip of the iceberg about where we're heading. And as Roger Deakins said, film, we're going to be seeing less and less of that. Movies being made on film. So you never know really quite what's going to happen.
Do you get to the movies? Do you get to movie theaters?
A few, yeah. I'm not a real avid movie goer, but I do enjoy.
Were you ever? Was that ever like part of your thing?
No, I wouldn't never say I was avid. Like 2 or 3 a week. I don't think so. No.
But 20 a year, 25 a year? What is?
That would be pushing it.
That'd be a lot.
I don't know if I ever did 25 a year.
So you like doing things? You would rather be doing the pottery or something?
Yeah.
Do you watch your own stuff?
Once, I'll see it, once or twice.
Do you enjoy that, or are you
I do.
shy about yourself?
There's a bit of a home movie. I was looking for that water. Is there any I had that bottle of. Right, is that? Yeah, thank you. That's great. Thanks.
Sure.
Where were we?
We were talking about watching your own movies.
Yeah. And then what did you ask me?
You said you watched them about once, and then.
Yeah.
You're not very self-conscious, or you are self-conscious?
Oh yeah. Something about watching movies that I'm in is there's a home movie quality about the whole thing, where you remember all the great times you had, and the takes that weren't being used, and your mind is kind of going. So generally it will take me a couple viewings to be able to sit it and look at it in a relatively normal way. Otherwise I'm judging my own performance, and like I was saying, remembering what I had for lunch and all kinds of crazy stuff.
And when you're through that, are you done with the movie, or is it kind of part of your history as opposed to an ongoing thing?
Oh yeah, I don't go back. If it walks, if it's on TV, I might get hooked into one, something like that.
But Lebowski has kind of become this strange, ongoing thing in your life, no?
Oh yeah, who would have thought, man? God, that thing just keeps taking off. When it first came out, it wasn't much of a hit. It didn't do much, and then it's developed this great kind of following, and we got Lebowski Fest, and Pretty amazing.
Is that strange? Does it just create other opportunities or something else to try for you, or what is the vibe on it?
Well, I love it. It was that particular movie that happened because it's such a, for my taste, it's such a wonderful movie. I mean, partial, I'm in the thing, but God, it's a great movie. Each scene is so, wonderful, great characters. And I've lost track of your question now.
Just whether it's, what it's like to be in the midst of all that. You're not somebody who kind of hangs on to your past.
Yeah.
You don't linger, and yet here is something where I'm sure every day somebody comes up to you and says virtually,
"Oh, dude, yeah,
dude,
yeah." So what are you saying?
It must be. Is it surreal? Is it just create other opportunities for you? I mean, I know you played. Your band was. The Abiders.
Yeah. It's just an odd thing I never expected. I expected other things from the movie. I expected it to be a bigger hit when it first came out. Mm-hmm. But never that it would develop this kind of following. Amazing.
So is your particular method as an actor something you developed, changed significantly over time, or is it just something that's kind of rolled along through your career?
It's pretty much the same. My father, taught me all of the basics when I was growing up. It was in his TV show, Sea Hunt. He would set me on his bed and teach me all the basics of acting. And then I had extensive on-the-job training, of course.
Yes. So when you go to create something like Rooster, does it come out of costume? Does it just come from the script, or do you find a hook and stick with it and repeat it until you are that person?
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned costumes. That's an important aspect of developing a character. It's one of the first things you do when you're making a movie is meet with the costumer, the costume designer, because she's got to get all the clothes made and all that. So you meet with her early, or whoever that person is. And it's a wonderful time of the movie for me because you're trying on these clothes, you're looking at the mirror, you get the benefit of this expert here who's all about your clothes and what this person might wear and why he would wear it and all this. And so you're learning about your character a lot through the costume.
Interesting. So did you put on the eye patch right away in this case, or?
Yeah, probably the first day, working with a costume person, and moved it from eye to eye, figured out which one, asked the brothers which eye they prefer. They'll say, whatever you think, what do you like? I don't know, I'm digging the right eye. I said, okay, go for that.
And did it change your performance? Is it comfortable, or is it just a prop? Is it just something?
It wasn't as bad as I thought, It messes with your depth perception, and the big problem is because it's just flipping it up like that, So a couple of takes, I forgot to flip it down, So I say, well, what do you think, guys? And we go. I go, oh.
So, and was doing all the writing, all the physicality of this role. This is a pretty challenging physical role. It sounds like the opposite of Tron in some ways. You're on a stage.
Yeah, but that was physical. That was that was actually more painful in a funny sort of way.
Because it's so precise.
He had all these suits, and you were wired, and and the riding is like I said. I love to ride, and that was a lot of fun.
And is having a newbie like Haley out there who did so amazingly, are you taking her under your wing, or is that not what the character does, or is what the character does later on, or?
How do you mean take her under my wing?
Well, it's a whole new. It's not only a new world to her that she's in the 1890 or 1880, but she's also on a set for the first time. Really, a big set.
Oh yeah.
She's working with you guys, and you've been through this with the brothers.
Yeah, she has such poise, and she was 13 when she made that film. Such a natural talent. Has wonderful parents who raised her very well. So her attitude about things is really great. is not chomping at the bit to be 30 years old. She enjoys being a 13-year-old kid, and that kind of makes her seem more mature in a funny sort of way. That she's not trying to be older than she is. And we were just so lucky to get her because she carries the whole thing. She's the star of the show.
Yeah.
And she really, carried us, across the finish line.
Should you take her to the campfire and give her advice, or do you just
No.
let her?
No, let the brothers do that. They just play with her. She was great to act with.
Mm-hmm. And people have told us that when they like something that you do or that she does or somebody, they tend to giggle a lot. Is that honest? Is that
get
true?
a little chortle. That makes you feel good. They're very, very light with their direction, which is something I like.
And did it feel similar in terms of that as did Lebowski? Did you guys sync in the same way?
Yeah, very much so. They don't, if they're liking what's going, they're not talking too much,
Mm-hmm. And they pretty much like what you're doing?
Pretty much. Every once in a while you'll get a chortle, which makes you feel good.
Have you had directors who push hard on you that you like? Do you enjoy that ever? Or is that...
Well, it's different. Each movie has a completely different set of folks, different sets of challenges. It's almost like you're sitting down to play cards. You've got new guys and a different game you're playing, and of course a different hand. So how do you play that hand? How do you work with that director? What does that director need from you? How are you going to communicate? And everybody does it a little bit differently. So you adapt and you ask them, if they would mind adapting to some of the things that you try to figure out out the playing field there.
And you pretty much you kind of know when you meet with them, I guess, early, what you have go ahead of you, what's coming.
Pretty much, you try to get it before you get too deep into it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So in this film, you also worked with Matt Damon, obviously, who in some ways reminds me, in terms of his career, a lot of you.
That's
of
interesting.
All people. Because he seems to like to work more eclectic series of films, and a lot of he challenges himself with directors.
Yeah, he does kind of remind me of myself in a funny sort of way. We often talked about that. I guess I'd be old enough to play his dad, wouldn't I?
Just barely, yeah.
Just barely. We can do something like that.
Is it fun to play dads at this point? Are you looking?
Yeah,
for
well, I am.
grandfathers?
I am a dad, and I'm going to be the grandfather here. And I got, my daughter. She's pregnant, so I'll be doing the grandfather thing in a little bit. I'll be playing grandparent. Gosh, hard to believe.
And can the experience of being an actor even touch being a grandparent and a dad and all that stuff?
Say that again?
Does the experience of being an actor and a successful actor touch being a parent, touch being a grandparent?
How do you mean, does it touch
emotionally? Is it the same? Is it anywhere in the same level? Do you get any of the same level of satisfaction?
It's very different. I don't see too much correlation. What comes to mind, where they did kind of blend, was on True Grit. My middle daughter, Jessie, was my assistant. So she was with me every step of the way. Wonderful assistant. I think the best I've ever had. I'm a little upset with Phil Kaufman now, the great director. He's up in San Francisco. He's got Jessie as his assistant. And I said, I'm going to get her back. And he said, yeah, fat chance. So, we're going to have to duke it out or something.
And does Jessie want to be a filmmaker ultimately, or?
I'm not sure. I never was as proactive as my dad. He really wanted all of us to go into showbiz because he loved it so much. And I wasn't that way with my kids. And they're all so smart and beautiful, and they're figuring out their own paths. But I wouldn't be surprised if they went into showbiz.
You seem to take a lot of pleasure in it when you see your father taking the kind of pleasure you have.
Exactly. But there's a lot of humiliation and disappointment. There's an underbelly to the whole thing too.
Yes, but not lately for you.
Not lately.
So is $150 million or whatever it is right now, True Grit, exciting? Does that?
Oh, isn't that great? That is so wonderful. Who would have thought that, huh?
Is that part of the fun for you?
What's that?
Do you take that into account?
I do. Well, it's kind of like having a horse in the race. I mean, it's the maraschino cherry. It's not the ice cream and the hot fudge, but it does feel wonderful when people are liking your movie. They're out there buying tickets.
And you pay a lot of attention to maraschino cherries, it seems.
I'd like a maraschino cherry, a good